You here? Oh, that's good. We'll use the white one. Hello, friends, and welcome to our Thanksgiving cooking class. It's good to see faces present here. Thank you for joining us online as well. Before we start, I wanted to introduce ourselves, but before we even do that, for those who are here, just so you know, the bathrooms are on that side. Turn right, they're going to be right there in case you need to use them. There's an exit there, and there's an exit on the front as well. So, who are we? Elmhurst SDA Community Lifestyle Center. So we've been in the community for some time now. We are part of the Elmhurst Seventh-day Adventist Church. The goal pretty much is to nurture the physical, mental, and spiritual needs of our community. And how we address that is through multiple different facets. So over the years, we've been offering cooking classes to the community. We've had some famous chefs come over as well and present their favorite recipes. We've had disease prevention seminars. We have multiple guest speakers come and speak about different topics that they're experts in, different doctors, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, you name it. We've addressed many different topics, and we will continue to do so. And the last facet, but not least, is fellowship. We really want to foster a community. We think it's important. The social aspect is also just as much part of health as is everything else. So before we continue, I would like to invite Florin to present on the physical needs of our community. Florin, if you can come up and present our running ministry, that's something that we offer as well, if we have any runners in the audience.
Thank you very much, Anna, and good morning to everyone and each of you. Let me ask you a question before I start to present who you are, and what we are doing. Would you like to run? Would you like to move around and have a little bit more health than usual? Then this is what we are doing it. And we welcome everybody who's coming right now also. This is our mission to running ministry that this church is running, is to educate, equip, and encourage those who wants to finish the race for God's glory through discipleship, preparation, and perseverance. And this is what we started almost 3 years ago with this idea, at a table in this room here where you all sitting. And we were saying, let's do something else beside eating and doing a health style living. Let's move, let's run, and let's do something that our body will glorify the Lord. And this is how we start. And we've been so blessed so far with people that were joining it. And if you like to join this ministry, which is a ministry for everyone and each of you, it could start from the little one to the oldest one, it doesn't matter. If you run, that keeps your body and mind in a good spirit. So I encourage you, if you want to do this, we do have a list there. You could put your phone number or email. We could contact you and let you know for the event. And now I will introduce Pastor Jan to have a talk with you.
Good morning again, and I'm just going to pray. We are here at church. We believe also that we are not just physical beings, that we are also spiritual beings, which is important part, extremely. So I would like to ask you to join us in a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much that you created us in your image. We are wonderfully and beautifully made. I'm also thankful, Lord, that we exist, we breathe, we are here by your mercy and by your grace. We are living in a difficult time when there are so many different things that are happening around us, but I'm thankful also, Lord, for your protection. I pray also that today the things that we are going to learn, that you would give us strength and ability that we can choose to implement them in our lives. I pray for every person here who is present here, for the presenters, and I pray, Lord, that your name be glorified, that we can also implement not just physical part, but that part that we need really for our soul, for our whole being, which is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I pray in his name, and I'm thankful. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor John. Now, before we get to the fun part with the recipes, we're going to have a quick presentation. This, as for some of you who have been here before, who have seen our presentations, this is unique, right? We live in a unique time, unique measures, and so I thought it would be important to address a little bit the ways that we can improve our immunity through 8 health laws specifically. So we're going to go over that real quick, and then we'll dive into the recipes. So something you may have heard of the acronym New START. It stands for nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and trust. These are facets of health that are important to pay attention to in order to have a complete and wholesome well-being. So there is a Bible verse that I really like that I wanted to bring up. It says, "I will never forget your precepts, for by them you have given me life." We are given certain conditions or certain aspects of health that if we pay attention to them, our health will thrive. We are designed for our body to heal itself. And so when we really focus on these things and do the right things, we will flourish. So let's go over it real quick, and then we will get into the recipes. So the first one is nutrition. And we know now that eating a wholesome and varied plant-based diet helps prevent multiple diseases. So including as much as you possibly can, fruits, vegetables, legumes, a limited amount of seeds and nuts, having a variety of foods, and we are blessed that we can access foods from all over the world, is really beneficial for us. Another aspect that we tend to forget, and especially in the culture that we live in, it's so busy, we tend to snack all the time, and that actually doesn't do us any good in the long run. So allowing 5 hours, 4 to 5, as much as you can, between meals to promote a proper digestion of the food is really important, and also to let your stomach rest in between meals. Your body will thank you for that. Another aspect is regularity in eating. So we are humans that prefer routine usually. Our bodies like that as well. So if it's possible for you to have certain set times every day that you eat so your body knows what to expect. And last but not least, proper mastication of food. In other words, chewing our food properly, sitting down, taking the time to really, smell the food, chew it properly so that we can help digestion. I don't chew my food. I come from the medical field. We have 5 minutes to eat, and you just chuck down the food, and then you go. And so I've been conditioned to eat this way, and now I need to put mental effort into trying to reverse that. How many here are fast chewers? Anybody? Okay, so about half of people. Yeah, so this is a very common problem in today's society. We are so busy, we're always in a rush. The reason it's important to chew our food properly, and I know it's like a no-brainer, of course I chew my food, but really, we're supposed to chew it about 30 times. I think it's a little more even, each bite. And the reason is because when we sit down and we have the saliva pour in, and we are hungry, and we want to eat, the digestive process starts in our mouth. So we have something called amylase. It's like a digestive enzyme that starts breaking down the food in our mouths, so that when it reaches your stomach, it's able to metabolize the food properly. So chewing our food, guys, let's chew our food. That's an important aspect. The next letter is E, exercise. So DHHS actually recommends about 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity a week. Now we know exercise prevents a plethora of diseases as well. Do we do it? Some do. Others don't do it nearly as much as we should. An easy way to do it really is if you don't have a gym membership, just put on shoes, bundle up as it's getting colder, and just go for a walk every day. If you can, 5, 10 minutes, half an hour, as much time as you possibly can, putting a mental effort, again, into getting out and getting some sort of exercise, even if it's quick-paced walking is important. We know it. Do we do it? That's another question. So just a reminder, W stands for water. So drinking at least 6 to 8 good-sized glasses of clean water a day. This might seem a lot. A good way to do it is, if you don't like the taste of water, just add some lemon in there or some fruit so it gets infused. Another good health habit to develop is to drink 2 to 3 glasses of water in the morning, first thing. So you wake up, it wakes you up. I know it seems like a lot, but work your way up to it. It can be half a glass. It can be, and then you work your way up to 1 glass. And the reason is your body is dehydrated when you wake up in the morning, and we're composed mostly of water, right, our bodies. And so it also helps flush out the stomach and digestive tract, and just gives us clarity to start the day on the right foot. The next thing that a lot of the times we forget about the beauty of water is hydrotherapy. Hydrotherapy is essentially the use of hot and cold water as a treatment to boost your immune system. So one of the things that we can do, I'm just going to summarize a little bit what hydrotherapy is. Basically, you get into the shower, whether it's in the morning or in the evening, and you start with a warm or hot shower. You warm up your body for a few minutes, and then you switch it to cold. And as long as you can handle it, between 30 seconds to a minute, stay there under the cold water, preferably whole body, including the head. And then you switch back to warm after 30 seconds or a minute for another minute or 2 to warm up, and then you do that about 3 to 5 times each time. Your body loves that. It's great for your immune system. Give it a try. I know it sounds a little scary, but you'll feel quite energized after doing that. And there is a science behind that. If you want to know more about it, I'm not somebody who's a science background. If you want to know more about it, we had a speaker who came previously in May 30th, and who addressed this topic in detail. He spoke about different ways that hydrotherapy can be used for preventative medicine and also treatment. And his name is Dr. Eddie Ramirez. So if you go on our YouTube channel is Elmhurst SDA, and if you type Eddie Ramirez COVID-19, the new normal, ? You'll see the video come up and you can listen to the lecture. Oh, sorry. Now, the next letter is S for sun. And we know that the sun has many healing properties that greatly benefit our health. Some of the things commonly, we know that vitamin D comes from the sun, right? We know that. It also increases calcium absorption in our bodies, lowers blood pressure, and also destroys bacteria and viruses, which is quite important in the day we live in. So if you can, try to get outside in the sun every day, and not just for the exercise, but also to get direct sunlight. Don't lather your face with sunscreen for those 30 minutes. Try to have direct sunlight. After that, you can do that if you'd like. But really, at least 30 minutes of sun exposure help us to maintain a good vitamin D levels. So daily, that's needed daily. And of course, regulate your exposure to the sun depending on your skin sensitivity. Let's use our, common sense with that. Oh, before I keep going, actually, the sun, another important aspect is opening your blinds in the home. Just letting the sun rays inside the house, not just exposing our bodies to it when we go outside, but our homes. Open the blinds, let those sun rays in. They kill viruses, they kill bacteria. You'll be better for it, getting the light in the home. And then T stands for temperance. So temperance essentially means moderation in good things and avoidance of the bad. And there's this quote that I really like that says, in order to preserve health, temperance in all things is necessary. Temperance in labor, temperance in eating and drinking. So all these things, drinking, eating, labor, we need that to thrive and to be alive, right? So these are all good things. But too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. So for instance, we can be eating a huge bowl of salad or whatever that's really nourishing to our body. If we overdo it, it's going to be harming our stomach as well. And in the long term, if you overeat and you have that practice and your body gets used to overeating, it will lead to disease, most likely. So moderation in good things and avoidance of the bad. The next is air. So we know air is essential for life. So if you can spend as much time outdoors as possible, if you have local parks you can visit, where there's more trees, the cleaner air, the better. And also keeping your home well ventilated. I can't stress this enough. Even in the wintertime, I know that we've had a beautiful fall. We've had really warm weather so far, but it's going to get colder. And even in the colder weather, if you can open your windows every day just a little bit for a few minutes, let that fresh air ventilate the rooms. It's going to be really good for your overall well-being as well, not just your physical, but also mentally. Let's see, R stands for rest. Now, we know that the adult needs on average about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Do most of us get it? That's a question, depending on your lifestyle. The science now shows that going to bed between 8:30 and 9 is a good idea. And the reason is because the hours between 10 o'clock and 2 in the morning, those are critical hours for our brains to kind of categorize everything, and your system just kind of renews during those hours specifically. So if you go to bed after 2 in the morning, you will be exhausted no matter what in the morning. Those hours are critical. So going to bed around 8:39 is a good idea. It'll be a little easier to implement this habit now that the days are a little bit shorter and it gets dark earlier, we get tired sooner. So it's a good habit to start implementing now. Now, last but not least is trust in divine power. So there's another quote that I wanted to share with you, and it's by Ellen White, and she says, "Gratitude, rejoicing, benevolence, trust in God's love and care, these are the health's greatest safeguards." So talking about preventative medicine, a joyful spirit really does help that. There are studies that now show that religion and spirituality are significantly related to positive health outcomes. So whether it's prayer or other things, the positive outcomes show that some of the outcomes is improved cardiovascular function, your immune system improves, lower inflammatory markers, which we know inflammation leads to disease. And so another thing is longer lifespan. So there is a Bible verse that is given to us as a promise, and it's in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, and it says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." We live in a time where there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of instability. A lot of people are extremely anxious, extremely stressed for very valid reasons. People are losing their jobs, you name it. People are sick, there's a lot of losses. That tends to really, a lot of diseases start in the brain, in the mind. So fear is paralyzing, stress is paralyzing, it depletes us. And so if we give that fear and that stress to God and we tell him, "Here you go, take it away from me," he promised he'll give us the spirit of power and of love and of a sound mind. And that's going to keep us on a healthy path. So before we continue, for those of you who are here, I hope you received a packet of papers. And if you look through it, there is one sheet where there's a checklist. So there's a bunch of little check boxes. And we have the acronym New Start with different things that you could start implementing in your life. So I personally encourage you to start little by little. I'm somebody who has known about the New Start for many, many years. Have I achieved to keep all of these health laws? I haven't. I'm very far from it. There's room for improvement for many reasons, for circumstances, stress, you name it. But we can start one thing at a time. So what I would recommend to do is you take that list at home with you, and every week, see what's more realistic for you. Start incorporating one thing at a time. So let's say, that's what I started. This week I started chewing my food. As simple as that. Just taking my time, taking at least 20 minutes to eat, because that's when satiety hits, and you tend to not overeat then. And your stomach, like I explained, is able to metabolize the food better. You don't gain weight that way. There's great benefits to it. So for me, it was chewing my food. So this week I'm focusing on that every meal. It takes a lot of mental power to do that when you're used to a different way of doing things. It could be a different thing for you. It could be going to bed early, whatever it is. Do it for a week, and then the following week, just keep working down the list. And hopefully you're able to achieve, or at least incorporate some of the habits, and it will be beneficial for you. Now we're going to jump into the fun part. Thank you for sitting through this. I hope that you will be blessed by it. Now we're going to have the recipe presentations, and I hope you received the recipes. You can follow along. The first one's going to be Sharina, and she's going to be presenting the really delicious carob pumpkin brownies. So I hope you enjoy.
All right, can you hear me? Awesome. And don't worry, I sanitized my phone before I brought it out, so we're all good. Now let me go ahead and get these gloves on. So what I'm actually going to do first is kind of take a step backwards and do things in a little bit of reverse. So right here, for this brownie recipe, you don't have to. It's always, they're brownies. You can do whatever you want with them. But for this one, I do wanted to show a little bit about how I made kind of the icing or the glaze that goes over it. And for this, I'll be using oat milk, and let me go ahead and show you. So this is oat milk. I got this from Aldi. Very surprised, pleasantly surprised by Aldi. And then these are carob chips. I got this from Whole Foods. I'm not really sure what other stores around have carob chips, but this is really the only thing I can find around here. And so what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and pour these in. And this is about half a cup of carob chips and then a little bit less than half a cup of the oat milk. And the reason why I'm doing this first is because what I really want is to melt the chips in the milk just a little bit. And so while I'm attempting to do that, and to explain, so the reason why you want a little bit less than the same amount of, a 1-to-1 ratio between the chips and the milk is so that it's thick enough for the chips to actually make more of a glaze rather than, a liquid. You want something that's kind of like a ganache, if you're familiar with that term. I'm not a fancy cook, so I like to use the terms to seem more fancy. Now, with the carob chips, so as you can kind of tell, so I had a little bit less, and it's not really as thick as I would like it to be. It's still a little runny. But what we're going to do now is we are going to take a little bit of the pumpkin, pureed pumpkin, and this was just from a can, whatever you can get at your local Jewel. Nothing too fancy. Let me actually put this in the bowl. Hopefully it doesn't flip over. Sometimes my utensils like to flip over in the kitchen. My dog loves it because I make a mess and he gets to clean it up. So what I'm just going to do is take about 2 tablespoons worth of the pumpkin puree and put it into the icing just to give it a little bit more of a texture to it so that it doesn't come out so thin and so runny. And actually, I'm going to put this in a different place so I can pick it up. And then a little bit of pumpkin spice. And the interesting thing about, extracts versus the actual thing is that the extracts, because they're more concentrated, you can taste them more. With the puree stuff, you kind of have to add a lot more in order to get the same kind of flavor. So I like to add both. And so hopefully it'll thicken up just a little bit. It's getting a little bit thicker. And as you let it sit, carob is really good at going back to kind of its same solid state. So even though it's a little bit thinner, it's still not exactly where I want it to be. But in the actual kitchen, I would just, heat up the milk more beforehand or put the carob chips in with it so that it can melt a bit more. And then if you always want it thicker, you can add more carob chips. And then I'll go into the health benefits of all of the stars here after I, combine all of these wonderful ingredients. So let's actually talk about the brownies. And ideally you would make, while the brownies are cooling, you've taken them out of the oven, you would make the glaze or the icing if you do want that. And then first you would make the actual brownie. So here is about a cup. Let me go ahead and get my measuring cups out of my wonderful pineapple. I'm not that big a fan of pineapples, but I thought this was neat. So here is about a cup worth. This is volumetrics. If you weigh, then it's going to be different, based off of humidity and whatnot. Then volumetrics, if you're very specific, you wouldn't necessarily use this. But for the purpose of this recipe, we are using volumetrics. This is about a cup of coconut flour. I bought this. I don't know if you can see the website, but it's from nuts.com. It's where I got this and the carob powder. You can get the flour from wherever you want. You don't have to use coconut flour if you don't want to. And let me try and move all of this around so you can actually see what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything crazy back here, but I see that I did make a little bit of a barricade between us. So, okay, that was the flour, and now we're going to add about a cup. This is a cup worth of milk. And like I said, I'm just using oat milk, but you can use whatever kind of flour, whatever kind of milk you want. For this recipe, I was trying to keep it kind of on the low-carb, gluten-free side. And so all of these recipes you see here are gluten-free, and they are also low on carbs, or the number of carbohydrates per serving. So let me go ahead and add the rest of our pumpkin. Ooh. It is defying gravity. Let's see here if it'll come out. And this is also a fun reason to have gloves so that you can get messy. Or if you like getting messy and you don't really care for the gloves, then, have at it. Whatever you want to do in the kitchen, it's your kitchen. At least I hope you're cooking in your kitchen. It'd be awkward if you just cooked in someone else's kitchen, or maybe they appreciate that. But so let me go ahead and add the pumpkin. Well, most of the pumpkin. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the, this is going to get messy on this bag. So I'm going to take a little bit of baking powder. And I do want to emphasize, the difference between baking powder and baking soda. Oh, I used my spoon in there. Did not fully prepare. But it's okay. It's not something a lot of people like, but we're gonna guess. And hope that we get to 1 teaspoon. In reality, I'm not sure how accurate that is. But it's okay, don't worry. You're not going to be eating this batch. So if anything was wrong here, you are safe. And let me see here. Oh, and then the carrot powder. But anyway, so about the difference between baking powder and baking soda. So baking soda is just sodium bicarbonate, which means that because it's in that pure form, all you need to do is add, or not all you need to do, but what you will need to add is some, this actually needs a little bit more milk. You may want to note that in your recipe, depending on the flour you use, but baking soda needs a liquid and an acid to activate, whereas baking powder, which is what I'm using, this only needs a liquid because it has the sodium bicarbonate in it, but it already has an acid added as well. And one thing about coconut flour that I kind of regret using this for is that it absorbs water very easily. Coconut flour is very fibrous, it's very nutritious and it's a low glycemic food. But the thing about it is that it I don't know if you can kind of see the texture, but it's not really cakey. It looks kind of whipped. The taste is fine, but that's just one thing you want to keep in mind. If you want to use almond flour, if you want to use regular flour, then by all means go for it. And so with the carob powder, a little bit about the health benefits of carob powder, it is actually a caffeine-free chocolate alternative, and it is free of, tyramine, not to be confused with tyranny, the reign of tyranny, but tyramine is what triggers migraines, and that's commonly found in chocolate, which, unfortunately, because of the caffeine and the sugar, people do like to flock towards the chocolate. But if you are looking for a caffeine-free option like myself, something that is a bit more on the low sugar side, then carob is a good option for you. And then with pumpkin, the nice thing about pumpkin is that it's really high in vitamins and nutrients, especially vitamin A, which is really good for your vision and for your ocular system. It's also very high. I'm checking my notes. I know, I'm sorry, I didn't have everything memorized. But it's also high in antioxidants, which help prevent free radical damage. And it is also high in potassium, which is very good for your immune system. It's also very good for anything attached to the nervous system. So, your brain in particular, those thinking powers. But anyway, I can't bake it in front of you. I didn't bring a little, easy bake oven. But this is if you're going to cook or if you're going to bake with coconut flour, this is what it's going to look like. A little bit of that whipped texture. I apologize if it looks not exactly appetizing at the moment, but the final product is nicer. So you'll just pour that into a pan. You'll bake it for about 40 minutes. And then when it comes out, you'll let it cool. You'll do the glaze if you want it. And then, of course, I forgot to add a few things. Some pumpkin spice, you can add however much or however little you like. And then this is monk fruit. The last thing I do want to say about monk fruit, or about this whole thing before I wrap it up, but monk fruit is actually good for keto. It's low carbs. It's a very unique sweetener. It's sweet because of something called gromides. Is it gromides? Let me check. No, I mixed up the letters completely. Magrosides, which means that it does not, while it's very, very sweet, and you'll add about, 3 tablespoons worth of monk fruit syrup. While it's very, very sweet, it doesn't trigger any blood spikes or any sugar spikes in your blood sugar. And so you'll just mix that up. And when you bake, it won't smell very sweet before it's raw. But when you bake, your house will start to smell very much like this liquid maple syrup version of monk fruit. But yeah, that is everything that I have for this. Oh, sorry, what? Oh, yes. Does anyone have any questions before I introduce our next recipe presenter? Awesome. You guys are very, very bright. I appreciate you, and thank you so much for letting me be the first to show you a little bit about pumpkin brownies. And once again, if you have any questions, feel free to let any of us know. But for our next speaker, we have Doug, who's coming on up here. Let me go ahead and get out of your way, Doug. Yeah, let me get this.
Hey, good morning. My name is Doug, and I'm happy to be here with you today. I'm going to show you how to make a vegan nut loaf that is perfect for your Thanksgiving table as a main dish. Also, it is healthy, it's tasty, and it is filling as well, too. So, let me go ahead. As a child of the 70s, I can use the term about my dish that this is a one-hit wonder. This is one dish that I do, and I do it well, and it's loved by almost everyone. Okay. So, if you're ready, we'll get started. Here we go. I'm going to grab my mixing bowl here. Okay, first ingredient, 3 cups of cashews. I'm going to put those in here like that. Next, we have vegan burger. Now, there's some options there you can go with for vegan burger. I went with the frozen Gardein variety, but you can also use this Loma Linda Veggie Burger vegan in a can. 1 can, or 2 cups of the frozen Gardein burger. Also, a cup of soy milk. We'll put that in like that. I've used probably all the varieties of plant-based milk, and all of them work pretty much the same. No problem there. Cup of chopped onions. I usually do those pretty coarse. It'll give the nut loaf some texture. And then 3/4 cup of the chopped celery, like so. Okay, got a cup of breadcrumbs. Now, if you want to keep this vegan, you're going to have to search out vegan breadcrumbs. Kevin from Apple Valley Food, he'll set you up really well. That's where I get my vegan breadcrumbs. Okay, and then we got chick seasoning. I got a tablespoon of that. 2 tablespoons of oil. Okay, and got a tablespoon of the Bragg's. What is that called? Liquid aminos. I get that up at Apple Valley too. And then a teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt, or I use the Celtic sea salt. And then my egg replacer. I'm using, I know on the recipe it has the Bob's Red Mill egg replacer. I found that today I'm going to be doing it in a nut loaf. Bob's was not sticky enough. It didn't have the consistency, so with some experimentation, I went ahead with the vegan egg replacer, and that one worked quite well. So that, with a 1/2 cup of water, I'm going to go ahead and mix that up. So if I'm using the canned veggie burger, then I'm going with the Bob's Red Mill egg replacer. But if I go with the Gardein or any other frozen crumbles, then I'm going with the vegan egg. So you just add that to a half cup of cold water. Mix it up really well. Okay, add that. Okay. Okay, and then mix all this together. I will say, as I'm mixing this up, that the recipe is pretty versatile and forgiving. I mean, there was a time where I went into the fridge, got my celery out. It didn't look too good, and I said, what to do? I chopped up some apples, and it was fine. They went in there, and no one even knew the difference, and it was still tasty. The other time I went into the cabinet, and the cashews were gone. I grabbed some almond flour, which is much more cost-effective, and it went very well, too. No complaints there. So just mix it thoroughly, like so. Now I'm going to use, I've done this in a 9x13 lightly oiled pan. That's typically how I do it if I'm serving it for dinner during the week or if I'm bringing it to the church for potluck. But I wanted something a little bit more presentable for the Thanksgiving table. I started experimenting with the bunt pan. Found this one over at Party City for $10 or less. And learn not to oil it. It works much better if you don't oil it. Put all your ingredients, mixed ingredients, right in the bunt pan, like so. And yeah, without the oil, I was amazed. 350, 1 hour. I put the plate on top of the bunt pan, flipped it over. It came out really nice, real easy, and it wasn't cracked or anything. I'm going to show you one. I brought one with me to show and to share. Look at all your ingredients in there. Just press it down so it fills all the little contours of the pan, like so. I'm fogging up here. Are you still out there? Talk about adverse conditions. I thought having kids around when you're cooking is bad. Okay, and usually I do, for the cashews, I've been getting them at Sam's. They're really cheap there. But if I get the Trader Joe ones, the 16-ounce pack, I just dump them in there. I leave about a finger on the bottom, and that's for my helper, Audrey, who likes to eat the cashews. Okay. And that's it. And then, okay, yeah, so after an hour, 350, I bought this nice plate from Home Goods. Fits really nice. And you have a finished vegan loaf like that. It's got a lot of nice texture. It's really nice colored. With the bunt, it's nice because you can put stuffing or potatoes in there. And then I tried this organic vegan mushroom sauce. Put that right in there. I want to try the sauteed mushrooms, fill it up like that. But it really cuts nice and everything. And that's it. Our next presenter will be Catherine. So let me clean up my mess here. Okay. I hope I inspired you to give this dish a try. Wishing everyone a happy and blessed Thanksgiving. Thank you, thank you. Ah.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Yes, okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Catherine. I'm going to teach you all how to make a very simple yet tasty Thanksgiving recipe that is actually probably one of my favorite things. So, I don't know if many of you are vegan, vegetarian, don't know where you're at, but the last couple years that I've been vegetarian, vegan, and my family is not really, we're all, spectrum meat eater, vegetarian, so there's not really a whole lot to eat, but something I look forward to that is good for everyone is this cornbread, corn cake, corn souffle type thing. Very simple, and it's very tasty. So the ingredients that we have are literally 4 ingredients. So we have a corn muffin mix. I have Jiffy. It's a vegetarian version because it usually comes with lard. But this is just cornmeal. It has some sugar. It has a little bit of like a vegetable shortening. So a box of this. I got that at Jewel's, but you can get any just corn muffin mix from anywhere, any brand, as long as you have to make sure it's vegetarian because it usually has lard. Then I have a cream-style corn, so it's just creamed corn, a whole kernel sweet corn, and then I have a little bit of butter, but this is our vegetarian butter, or vegan butter. And over the years, we've been trying to make it healthier, so we started with a cup of butter. Now we're down to half a cup of butter, if you want to try with 1/4. One thing I will say is that the more butter you add, the fluffier it is. So what we do is we melt this down until it gets to be like a liquid consistency. And then we open our cans, we take our cream core, just pour it into like a Pyrex, just like this. You pour it in there, and then you want to drain the kernel corn, pour that in there. Get your corn muffin mix and just sprinkle it on top as well. And then last but not least, you're going to pour the butter in on top and just mix it up with a fork or spoon. And then that's it. It's great. It's easy. You can make it like in the morning, put it in the oven, 350 for 1 hour, and then it should be done. And I would show you, but it's already packed away in boxes for all of you to try. So make sure you get a piece of that before you leave. One thing you can do is that you can double this recipe and put it all in the same dish, so it's going to get a little higher, so it'll be a little more fluffy. And it can be like a thicker cornbread instead of like a flatter cornbread. So that is it. A very simple, tasty recipe that I personally enjoy. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you for being such a great audience. Oh, and next is coming a white chicken chili presented by Jennifer.
Good morning. Just give me a minute here to put everything out. I am a mother, so there's no way I'm going to remember this recipe, okay? Not to mention I'm also blonde, so I am going to forget things. So that's why we have to have the recipe in front. Keep it on there, please. I need a spatula. I don't know. Yes, please. All right. So I'm going to be making you guys white chicken chili. Chicken with quotes on it. All right. This is a very popular soup that I came across. It has a very special meaning for me and my family because in 2005, my husband, to be, was baptized and gave his heart to God. And the associate pastor's wife had us all over to her house after the baptism, and she served us this soup. Now, my husband is a red-blooded meat eater, okay? He is a bow hunter, and his family too. And it's my side that's kind of like vegetarian, and we won them over completely. And ever since then, this has been a staple in our household, as well as at church. We've had it many times for our potlucks, and it even won a soup contest a few years ago, tied for first place. So with that said, it was somebody else's recipe that I adopted. This is my lovely helper, Peyton, my daughter. So how I start is I usually saute my onion at the end. You'll see on your recipe that it's usually the first thing that's on the sheet, but I like to just dump all my other stuff in first. And what I find is I always double the recipe. What you'll have on your sheets is just for a small portion. But I always find that this is good for, one big meal for everybody, and then it can be frozen, and it can be reserved throughout the week. And so I always double the recipe. And I was lucky enough to find that in order to double the recipe, instead of opening all those multiple cans of beans, go to Gordon's. Save yourself some time with the can opener. It's 110 ounces of beans right here, and that is very easy to add. I empty them, and then I put them in a colander, and I wash the beans, okay? And then I just add them. I take all the juice out of it and wash them. So it's just the beans. You stand up here for me. Excuse me. And then to double, we're doing 4 cups of water, okay? Now, I don't know how many of you guys out there are familiar with McKay's chicken like seasoning. Have anybody out in the audience used this before? It's a staple in my house, okay? So this is, they have a vegan version, and then they have the regular, but it's vegetarian, and you can add this to everything, and this bag will go a long way, okay? So it's 2 tablespoons, but then to double it, 4 tablespoons. Now my garlic, everything has to have garlic in my household. It's really good for your body and preventative. So I have my 2 tablespoons of garlic in here. These are all my kind of like seasonings that I have. We have the can of chopped green chilies, Target You can get the Target brand cheaply. 4 ounces if you're doing one, and then just double it up. They have the larger cans that has a double portion. All right, so we're going to put the green chilies in there. Now this soup, if I haven't mentioned it already, has a kick, okay? And it's a good kick. Like, I don't like really, really spicy, but I like something. And you can adjust this to your taste. But I find, like, usually the gentlemen like to, like, okay, that's not spicy enough, so I had to add a little bit more. Where the ladies like to have it just a little bit, you know, nothing to set you on fire and curl your hair. Obviously, I've been eating a lot of this. We have our cumin. Cumin is great, okay? It's got a lot of antioxidants in it. It promotes your digestion. It is rich in iron, and even may help with diabetes if you look up the benefits of cumin. So my cumin's in my little spice plate here too. And we also have dried oregano. So there's lots of ingredients to this soup, but when you smell it, when you take your to-go home, you're going to smell all this, all the delicious flavors that come together. And then the cayenne, okay? Cumin's got a little spice to it, okay? But cayenne's where you're going to get your punch. I usually will, if I'm doubling the recipe, I'm going to do 1.5 teaspoons. And then you can adjust from there. And I will give you a quick little hint, or not hint, a little helper for you. If it's too spicy, if you do this and you come back and like, whoa, that set me on fire, then what you're going to do is you're going to use this tofu sour cream. I don't know if anybody's ever used this, but sometimes you can get lucky and purchase it. Sometimes Target, depends on what Target you're at, will have it, but I buy mine at Apple Valley. And we can also tell you where Apple Valley is located. It's a great health food store that we find a lot of our unique little things. But you can calm it down by adding just a little bit more. After you've completed it all, you've tasted it after it's cooked, and you're like, okay, that's too much, calm it down with a little bit of tofu sour cream. That's good. Speaking of our tofu, so you only need 1 if you're doing 1 batch, 2 for, obviously, when you're doubling it. And you can just turn it over and put it in. Now, if I was making this at home, like I did your other batch that you're taking home with you, I like to wait to put my tofu in after it's been on the stove and it's reached its boil. I like to then add my tofu. Why? Because it kind of melts it for me. This is your more creamier substance that's in the soup. And so when it's hot, it's going to melt it. It's going to add your color to it. And like I say, it's going to control that heat that's in the soup. All right. Then the meat, the mock chicken that you're going to put in there. You can choose whatever vegetarian mock chicken that you prefer. What I like to use, I've always used, is fried chick, Loma Linda fried chick. You can buy this at Apple Valley. I like to wait until there's sales on cases of these. And if you go into my garage, you will see like a lot of these cans because it's a staple in our house as well. I like it because of the texture. But this is not vegan. Everything else that's in this soup is vegan. This is not. Okay, it's low sodium, it's low fat, but it is not vegan. I think Gardein has a vegan option that you can use. But again, when you work with this, you're going to see that the texture is really nice, that when you're eating it, it almost tastes like chicken. Well, I don't know. I haven't eaten chicken since I was 12, but I imagine it tastes like chicken now. So this is how the fried chicken is going to come in, pieces like this in the can, okay? And instead of cutting it, instead of slicing it with a knife, because that's going to give you more more rigid pieces when you're chewing it, I like to break them up. And it's just a nice texture. So I just use my hands, and I break off pieces. I said, a really nice texture. Now, when I double the recipe, I don't do 4 cans. I do a total of 3 cans. Again, you can adjust this to how much, chicken you would like to have in your soup. Now, you might want to think, like, where's the soup part? You've only got 4 ounces of water so far, and everything else is, like, meaty stuff. The soup from your cans of your fried chick is going to go in as well, okay? Now, I kind of put this on the stove at this point, put it up to high. I'm going to get it to where it gets starting to boil. While that's starting to heat up, that is when I'm going to dice up my onion. And this is the size I would use for a double batch. I don't want to go too crazy on the onions, but it's a medium onion if you're going to do 1. And I'm going to saute that in the pan and then add when it's done. I saute it with my Earth Balance vegan butter. So like I said, almost everything else is vegan except for that fried chick. All right, and I don't double up on it when I'm sauteing it, even though I'm doubling the recipe. I just use the block right here. All right, it's good for baking, for everything, baking, for cookies and everything. All right, and then we're gonna keep this pot. We're gonna, like I said, you're gonna get it to a boil, and then you're gonna leave it on there. After it gets to a boil, then you're gonna turn it down to simmer for 30 minutes, uncovered. And after that, turn it off and let it kind of sit. And it's ready to serve. It's even better the next day, because when you put it into the refrigerator, like after you're done with your first meal out of it, the next day it's gonna thicken. Okay, and it's going to be more whitish and thicken. And the bread that I like to use with this that really brings out the flavor is rosemary bread. That rosemary spice really just adds to the soup. Are there any questions? This is also, so at Apple Valley. Does anybody have a quick address to Apple Valley that we could... I don't think it's on my recipe. Yeah, they had just recently moved. They used to be right at 83 in Ogden in a shopping center, and they recently just moved this past summer. But it's called Apple Valley. 27 East Chicago Avenue in Westmont. I'm telling you, you're going to find a lot of little things that you wouldn't normally find in stores. But I will say that now that Target is starting to carry a little bit more and more of the vegetarian options. They've now got Loma Linda prepackaged meals that I've seen them have. All right, any other questions? All right, this is great, especially when it gets cold. So I think we're going to have to wait a few more days to eat it. But thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving. I will say, too, that for my loaf that I use, that's a staple in our house, is a dinner roast. That's what it's called, a dinner roast. And I think is it Worthington or Worthington makes it. It comes in just a aluminum pan, and it's a delicious roast. I have taken that to my office, to my employees down in Chicago, and they've eaten it up as well. So it is really a really good dinner roast, and that's exactly what it's called. You can find those at Apple Valley as well, and they are always on sale during November and December. So that's the time to stock up on them. I always get a case because the great thing about this, of not having dairy in these things, is that they last forever, right?
Oh, hello? Okay. Is your guys' mouth watering yet? Because mine is. We are almost done. I will ask you to just be patient. Don't take off yet. We will have the to-go trays ready with all the food in the next 5 minutes, so you can grab that and enjoy that at home. The team is getting that ready. And talking about the team, if you can just give a round of applause, because they are very gracious to accept to present and also cook a big batch for people to enjoy. And we hope that you will enjoy it. And maybe you got some ideas for your own Thanksgiving dinner. And maybe you can surprise the family with something fancy this year. So before we head out, I just had a few more announcements to make. So we are going to have a special guest speaker come all the way from Tennessee, coming up in December. So these are the topics that he will be covering. I'm going to go over them. If you can think of somebody maybe in your family or friends, anybody who might be interested in these topics or who is suffering from these diseases, invite them. We'll have a limit of 25 people. Unfortunately, with the restrictions, we have to kind of abide by the rules, but we will be live streaming it as well. So keep an eye out for these series. So the first one is going to be on Friday, December 11th at 6:30 at night, and it's going to be how to build the immune system naturally. I touched on a few things today. He will go in much more depth over these things. Saturday, December 12th, he will be presenting at 4 and at 5 o'clock, and the topics will be diabetes and heart disease. And then Sunday, the following day, is going to be another interesting presentation. It's going to be at 10:30 in the morning, just like today. And the topic is hands-on old mountain remedies. If you're interested in old, like natural cures and remedies, things like poultices, he's going to get pretty messy. He's going to have a table laid out he's going to show you how to make specific remedies for different, diseases, whether it's back pain or whatever it is, poultices, different mixes of things. Pretty interesting. So if you guys are interested in that, or you know somebody who might be, invite them as well to join us. And the way to RSVP to those classes is, again, through our meetup group. If you go on our website, www.meetup.com/Elmhurst SDA, you'll be able to find these series and be able to RSVP to them, as well as share with your friends the links. Now, this is our contact information in case we do have a Facebook page and YouTube, the meetup group. So if you want to keep up with our future events, that's on there. You can take a photo if you'd like. And before you head out, make sure you grab the food. And we also have some free literature spread out on the table in the back. So you've got everything from, things that talk about, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, you name it. We also have Florin and his sheet if you want to sign up for running ministry, if you have any runners in here. Always a great time to start. I know it's getting colder, but more so a reason to stay warm. And so you can sign up on there as well. And I hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions, please let me know at the end. Hope you enjoy this and be blessed. Happy Thanksgiving as we're welcoming the Thanksgiving season. Enjoy it. And we hope to see you soon at the next seminar. Thank you.